Plain language and HSD, human systems dynamics, are two of my favorite things. And so I love the fact that I can talk about sort of the intersection and how I used what I know about HSD to help embed plain language into a team. We don't always have the luxury, or our clients or organizations don't always have the luxury of having a plain language team or a plain language specialist. We actually have to get other people to learn the skill of plain language and take that on. So what I'm offering tonight is just my slice that I think is a little bit different from some of the conversations that are happening in the plain language world, and that's bringing the complexity sort of angle to things. So the first part, I'm going to talk about three types of change, and then we're going to narrow in on one of them. I'm going to pause after that to make sure that we don't have any big questions about the concepts I'm going to share, because they're kind of foundational to then the second part of what I'm going to be speaking about. Now, the spoiler alert is that all three changes are happening at the same time, but let's go through them one at a time. So clear change, it's stable, it's predictable, has predictable steps, it's linear. So here we're seeing somebody giving a check, let's say at a bank, and they want to get cash back. The second type of change is called complicated change. So there's predictable patterns here, but you need expert knowledge. So in this image, we're seeing a mechanic who is trying to figure out what is wrong with a vehicle and then fix that vehicle. Now, the third one, complex change. It's unpredictable and full of surprises. And the patterns emerge over time, but we have to notice them. We have to observe them. It's not an expertise that's necessarily going to be able to identify the pattern. We don't know in this picture of young children at maybe a birthday party. We don't know if somebody's going to trip and fall and hurt themselves. We don't know if the big brother's going to run downstairs and scare all the girls. There's lots of things that can happen. We don't know if some girls are going to become cliquey and go into a corner of a room. There are patterns that we want to be observing. So what would an example be here? Well, asking people to learn, to adopt, or to practice a new skill, which is exactly what we're trying to do when we want to get subject matter experts to take on plain language. So let's take a look at complex change. If you can remember the acronym DONE, D-O-N-E, then you can remember some of the main characteristics of complex change. So the first one is around differences. That means that the change can be influenced by a multitude of factors, and I've just given a few examples here. People can have a range of perspectives on the change. Are they optimistic about it, pessimistic about it, about it? So these are four characteristics that I have found with talking to people about complex change are really important to keep in the back of your mind. It's what distinguishes this type of change from the clear and complicated. One of the best metaphors for complex change is an ecosystem, right? We don't work in a vacuum. And as soon as we bring people into a scenario, if we go back to the example I gave about the training coordinator who was going to change your room, and I said that that could be seen as clear change. It is also complex change once we start bringing in people's feelings. Okay, let's take a look then at the particular scenario that I was working with, just to give you a sense so that you can compare it to your own experience. So my subject matter experts were evaluators for a grants and contributions program in the public sector. In other words, we gave money to people to do stuff, okay? Usually organizations. I worked with two evaluation teams that were made up of a manager, a senior evaluator, and a junior evaluator. But I had another team that I worked with of two people, and they provided administrative and linguistic support. The document that was the first request was the final report. Okay, so the final report, the history about it is that it used to be the writing of it was contracted out before. Evaluators did not have to do it. Now they wanted to do it in-house. Okay. I worked with these teams for about 7 months. So that's just a snapshot of the people I was working with. So what I want to show you is a model that I used to make sustainable change. So this isn't just about making change. We actually want lasting change, something that's going to hold up, stand up, that I used. And the reason I've chosen to show the tools is because I can tell you what I did, but if I don't tell you about my thinking, then it's hard for you to go apply it in your context if it happens to differ from mine in any way. So the first place I'd like to talk about is managing complexity and a tool called adaptive action. So the first part of adaptive action is the question what, right? What's happening? What are the observed patterns that I'm noticing? The next question is so what? And so what? And this is a step that people often skip because we really, as humans, want to go to the solution. We want to close that story, right? If we think about how our brains are set up, we want resolution. That's where we're really comfortable. So, in terms of patterns, what am I talking about? One helpful pattern for me that I noticed in my case study was the pattern of enthusiasm. Certain people showed right away that they wanted to learn as much as possible about plain language. They proactively asked me questions. They applied what they learned. They made suggestions. So the next tool is called focusing on system fitness. And so this is talking about you want to continue to notice what's happening. Is there anywhere that looks a little bit broken that you're going to have to go and tend to? Is everything moving along fairly smoothly? And if it's not, one tool that you can use is tensions. You can observe tensions. Now, a few things to understand about tensions when you're talking about complex change. Tensions are neutral. They are not good or bad. There is no value judgment. They are neutral. They help us look beyond a binary, the either or situation that we are famous for in the West. It's this or it's this. No, it's not.